Tonight, the role of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, will be played by me. Okay? Okay. Oh no! Let's knock stuff on the floor. Go, Stuffzilla! Woo-wee!
Hello and welcome to Monster Vlogs. I'm Charlie.
I'm Haley. That wasn't a happy movie.
We saw Gojira. And yes, it was Gojira. The 1954 Toho released film.
Our first foreign language film.
Our first foreign language film, yeah. I mean, technically Babadook was our first foreign film. This was our first foreign language film.
Yes.
All subtitles, all in original Japanese. None of that frickin' American.
The recut American. With the newscaster guy.
I mean, that has its merits too, but, you know, nothing cuts quite as deep as this movie. And, ooh. Oh man, does it put you in a state of mind. It does its best to remind you of America's single greatest up. Times two.
It wasn't specifically a middle finger to America, though.
No.
This was to
It's
Japan, from Japan,
for
Japan,
for Japan,
by Japan. And it's it's so weird to see one's cultural catharsis from something like Hiroshima and Nagasaki happening, because that's what this was. This was like the cultural trauma.
Yeah, I mean, this was the 2005 War of the Worlds of its day. Because Lindsay Ellis put it best that was probably our biggest catharsis film
For
right
9/11.
after 9/11. This was on the same level, but it had a lot more substance to it than War of the Worlds, though.
Yes.
I mean, War of the Worlds was basically just beating you over the head with, this is terrorism.
Remember this?
Remember that. And this does that too.
Do you remember this with your cornflakes, kids? And it's so strange because, and this is the last time I'm going to bring up War of the Worlds, that no one mentioned 9/11 in War of the Worlds.
No, but they did mention terrorist attack, or Dakota Fanning was like, is this terrorists? Or like, no.
It did one throwaway line.
One throwaway line.
This, it might be a cultural thing, because as an American, it felt very odd for them to just casually mention
Nagasaki
the
and the H-bomb and the A-bomb.
And just be like, yeah, that bad news happened about 10 years ago, and now something else bad's happening. Good for us. Sarcasm implied.
Yeah. But this was the movie to basically launch the giant monster movie genre in Japan. But the more they made, the further they got away from the message.
Well,
and I think that's why...
there's something to be said for a giant monster movie just being a fun giant monster movie.
Yeah, Cloverfield. Cloverfield, Pacific Rim.
It's your freaking Megazord, okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a fun monster movie, but this wasn't about the monster.
Wasn't.
Godzilla was not a character in this.
He was
Godzilla was the H-bomb. He was a force of nature. He was mankind's destructive nature. He was
his first appearance,
an anathema and a theme. He wasn't like a character.
Like his first, like, quote unquote appearance on landfall is on the heels of a typhoon, which is already incredibly destructive to coastal Japan.
Watching this after Fukushima was also incredibly wow.
Yeah. like, yo, Toho, you know, the work you're doing on the 2016 Godzilla movie. Is it 2016 or is it?
It should be 2016.
Okay, whatever year the new Godzilla movie's coming out, if it feels like Fukushima.
I mean, because the 2014
job.
one already felt a little bit like they were alluding to Fukushima, because there was a nuclear plant that went meltdown.
Yeah.
But as it was American, it really didn't get down into the experience of what it felt like.
Out of all the Godzilla movies, this one doesn't treat Godzilla like a joke like the other ones do.
Or just this character.
Or a character. Like, it is the movie. It is everything the movie is about. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there are scientists who want to study it. There are scientists who want to destroy it. There are, like, so many political things happening in this movie
and
that Godzilla kind of just takes a back seat to all of it.
I don't know much of, like, the cultural background of Godzilla or things like, because I know there are certain monsters in Japanese folklore, like there's a skeleton ghost whale.
Yeah.
In Japanese folklore, it's really interesting, but I don't know, like, the exact where Godzilla came from in the cultural lexicon. Because I did, we have watched a lot of, like, anime and Japanese film before.
Sure.
And I have.
I like Pokemon.
But, you know, things that in Western culture we tend to think of as this giant bad thing coming our way is, when you look at a similar thing in Eastern philosophy, is just accepted as a force of nature, as this thing that is both a bringer of good and bad, and it's not like something that, you know, must unanimously be destroyed, but just like kind of coalesced with.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the movie, Godzilla is basically referred to as sort of like this, like, kind of deity where they have to send out sacrifices of little girls to appease so that they can have a good fishing season or a good fishing anytime.
And that, like, there wasn't a lot of the whole, you know, accepted as a part of nature thing. There was but what there was, and what was interesting to watch, was how fragile that mentality is in the face of such overwhelming destruction. Because especially with the older Professor Yamane, the zoologist, where he was so adamant at not killing Godzilla because, you know, this is such a rare creature, this is a prehistoric species, we need to be studying it. What if we could learn how to survive the way it survived?
But
at the point
tone
that
quickly changes after the massive destruction.
After Godzilla destroys Tokyo, it's like, what is the point? There is no point. You have no ground. Like, there is... when the weight of destruction is outnumbering what good might come from it, how can you justify that point of view? And bringing it back to the idea of Godzilla as an allegory. And thinking about, this is the middle of the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
And Japan was not a major player in world politics by that time. They were a bystander. They were a tiny person watching titans fight. And thinking about how that justification crumbles apart. And you think about mutually assured destruction. And this is very emotional.
And it's an incredibly emotional film. And, like, after that initial that massive destruction scene, they do not portray it as anything less than an H-bomb attack. I mean, it looked like Nagasaki. I mean, it was nowhere near on the same level as, like, Nagasaki or Osaka. Hiroshima, thank you. It was nowhere near on that level because it was just like a bunch of model work, but what better country to produce something that they had first-hand experience with than Japan?
It did not pull any punches. It wasn't this, like, clean VFX Roland Emmerich, you just see the National Monument crumble and that's your thing. I'm sure a lot of the buildings that Godzilla was destroying were like recognizable buildings in Tokyo.
But you know what?
But we didn't have any context for
like
it.
with no cultural context whatsoever, or even geographical context. The buildings that were destroyed were just buildings with people in them.
Yeah.
Like I got to your point with disaster movies where I'm like feeling forever. You feel the weight of every person
Thank
hurt
you. Yes.
and killed in this movie.
Because I hate
the TV tower that Godzilla destroys. While I knew you were. That was one of the scenes that got you, where the newscaster is broadcasting to the bitter end. He's like, "This is the end. Farewell, everybody."
As like Godzilla is chomping down on the dang TV tower,
and it comes crashing down, and the camera just
follows
it all the way down onto the ground, and you see it just collapse.
And I'm gonna go talk about like how they shot the disaster as opposed to American like Roland Emmerich disaster movies, because I hate disaster movies because I hate being forced to not empathize with like all the little people that are implied to have died, because the way we shoot disaster movies is it's clean and you just see the building fall apart and maybe it's like the living actor like watching it.
It's more the spectacle of the destruction,
and it's like the VFX explosion. And that's like your representation for this big disaster that's happening, and you're kind of supposed to vicariously be like, ooh, yeah, because it's like a train wreck. But I empathize with everyone that is implied to have died. So I feel incredibly uncomfortable watching disaster movies for that reason. And when a lot of American movies try to put in like the ethos, like in Day After Tomorrow, like you see all the bodies like under the snow. Like that, and it hits like right after you're supposed to kind of vicariously enjoy the destruction, and then you're supposed to feel sad. Like I hate that. I can't stand watching disaster movies for that reason.
And this movie has that perfect balance of you feeling for the destruction
because of the effects work.
Yeah.
Because they had no technology to do like big explosions. All they could do was like composite shots of flames in the background and Godzilla in the background, and then people banging on the windows of their apartment buildings. As you know, that apartment's going up in flames, and you just have to work on the human actors and maybe some models. And you see like people die, and you're like allowed to feel for that. And that's so important.
Which is why
it felt so much more viscerally there. I felt so much more connected to it.
And notice how it didn't start feeling that way until he started unleashing his atomic breath, which is the closest allegory to like the flashbang of the initial like blast of the bomb.
And that kind of happened at the beginning too with the ships.
That did, but it was underwater. Well, that opening scene mirrors, like Dave Rose talked about this in his documentary. I will definitely link it. The full thing is on YouTube. It's an incredible watch. It's like an hour and a half, so you're in for a ride.
That's much of a ride.
Par for the course for any of his videos, just saying. But that scene is actually inspired by true events, where like some fishermen off the coast of somewhere saw like a nuclear blast, and they were like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then they started seeing effects of radiation on themselves, and as they were slowly getting sick and dying, and then this like this weird dust that was covering the ship. This is when they first discovered fallout.
Oh my goodness.
And this was a big deal back in the 50s. Oh man, if you are looking for an empathy punch, right to the gut, right to the balls even.
If you just... this is for if you need to feel something. Like, wow.
Yeah, horror definitely is a genre that says something, and this has a lot to say. This movie especially.
It really does. Like, I empathized most with the scientist's daughter.
She was
really the emotional center of the film.
Yeah, the emotional center and sort of the audience surrogate, I would say.
Actually, she was the one trying to convince some Serizawa in to use his
use the oxygen destroyer
weapon. And I really wanted her to have that conversation. I realized that 1950s it wasn't going to happen.
Even in Japan.
The dude, everywhere. The dude was going to do it. But I wanted her to have that conversation so she could be like, I held a dying child today. What responsibility do you think you have?
Yeah.
And you get that feeling from her. That her empathy is so strained and she just needs someone to step up.
But let's talk about Serizawa himself. Basically the hero of the movie.
He's a cool guy.
He was so cool. He is just the example of total badassery. An eye patch over one eye. He's like, yeah, I'm a scientist. I'd never leave. I'm the mysterious guy. And he just happens to hold the key.
I would rather die than produce a weapon for the world.
Oh, man.
You know what he is?
He is...
You know Peter Lorre's part from Invisible Agent? He is the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I
was going to say, he's Oppenheimer. He is totally Oppenheimer. He is the Oppenheimer stand-in. And there's even the question about, he was being interviewed in the movie. We're like, oh, do you know any German scientists? I don't know any German scientists. I don't know what you're talking about.
I love the complete shutdown.
And in the movie, they had the chance to create a scientist character who can create this immensely destructive weapon and have him be the one to carry it out and destroy it along with himself so that it is never replicate.
He burns all his notes. He has all of the thing that has been invented. There's no little scrap left. He's been very thorough. And it's also an interesting counterpoint to Dr. Frankenstein as well.
Yeah. A little bit.
In taking responsibility for your own creation. Everyone's very powerful.
Everyone in this movie.
Even the little kid from the island that his family's house collapsed.
Yeah.
You have tremendous pathos for that character. And he stays until the end. It's so nice to just root for people to survive these kinds of films.
Yeah. And this was a gut punch, but my God, is it an incredible movie. It's a little rough around the edges with some of the matte paintings and of course the suit and the special effects.
Some of the best composite shots I think I've ever seen.
Without this movie, we wouldn't have what I would go on to argue. We wouldn't have probably Jurassic Park. Without this movie, Jurassic Park wouldn't exist.
There's a little bit of John Hammond in the older scientists.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Even though Godzilla wasn't his creation at all, or he didn't see toward it, he wanted... It was I want to keep this around so I can study it, so we can learn more about, the world and prehistory and all that, but after he sees the destruction, he's like, nope.
He barely has a line after that.
Oh my God. There's a lot of stoicism in this. A lot of earned stoicism. And... so good. Go watch it.
Yeah, this is important culturally for people to watch.
I don't think we're gonna watch even.
This
is probably the most culturally important movie that we're gonna watch. This and Babadook. Why are these? It's got to be paper cases, man. It's got to be the paper cases. The paper cases with the little pop-up thing that, just rawr, rawr, rawr.
They knew how to shoot Godzilla, man. They knew how to shoot.
Yeah.
Make him look really good.
How long was this movie?
It felt like a while.
96 minutes, so it's about a little under 100 minutes. And yeah, the pacing was pretty great in it too.
And very, very typical pacing.
Yeah.
I would say.
What did Haley draw today? What else?
I was going for a heraldic design of Godzilla,
Yeah, I noticed that it was a little similar to the IMAX.
The Godzilla family crest.
I was gonna say the Comic-Con poster from a few years back for the 2014 Godzilla movie, where it was like he was made entirely out of like destroyed skyscrapers. But yeah, that looks a little Games of Thrones-y.
Yeah.
Games of Thrones-y.
I'll clean it up more on the computer.
Yeah. We're never having you guys vote again. Not after this. Well, we will. We just won't for the next one.
This next one is our choice.
This next one is our choice. We're gonna have at least one choice.
Yeah.
One of our choices, just to get it out of the way.
And then every once now, we're gonna do random ones that no one gets to say because it's random.
Will it fate decide? Yeah. Yes, I just quoted Phantom Menace. Bite me. Anyway, no. But, final thoughts. Horrifying then. Oh my god, yes. Horrifying now. I would say more... It's not so much horrifying as it is just...
Gut punch.
Like I said, it's that empathetic gut punch of a film. If you have any shred of empathy whatsoever. Anyway. In-card time?
In-card time.
Okay. If you like this, click our faces to subscribe. Last time we watched The Evil Dead, based on your suggestions. Next time, we have to deal with, granted, an excellent director, granted, an excellent actor, a couple of actors, just one with a really terrible British accent.
Who has the terrible British accent?
Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Next time. So, I mean, tell us what you thought of Godzilla, because...
Yeah, let's have a fun discussion going.
Alright.
I'm turning this recording off now.
See you later, everybody.